Robin. The new and the most expected film of the famous Bat hero is going to be in a theater near you. And the Warner Channel is getting closer to the final day of its super contest. Your own premiere. It will also bring you exclusive details about the movie. It's George Clooney's first time performing as the superhero in Batman and Robin, and he's excited about the multi-million-dollar Warner Brothers contract he signed and this new challenge in his career.
I get a chance to be in this huge event movie and be a part of something that I loved the script. I thought it was funny, and Arnold was talking about doing it at the time, and I think Uma was in already, and you know, Chris and Alicia were definitely already in. So it was, for me, it was just a chance to work with some really great people, and I was excited about it.
Great stars.
Cool party.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
All right, everyone, chill.
George Clooney.
I'm not the marrying kind.
Maybe you've had your wild night.
Good night. Wild doesn't quite cover it.
Chris O'Donnell.
Come join me. My garden needs tending.
She loves me and not you, and it's driving you crazy.
This is why Superman works alone.
Uma Thurman.
So many people to kill. So little time.
Alicia Silverstone.
And you are?
Batgirl.
That's not awfully PC. What about that person?
Found the Batcave.
She knows who we are.
Guess we'll just have to kill her.
So what's the magic?
Batman is extremely unique. It's very appealing to kids. It's extremely appealing to grown-ups, to families, to the action fans, to the visual effects fans, to the science fiction fans. It just has something in there for everybody. And something in there for everybody in the entire world. No matter what country you go, this movie is going to fly, and this movie is going to be a hit. So that's what makes you feel good being part of a project like that.
It looks like everybody wants to be part of this magic, of the success.
When Bob Daly and Terry Semel asked me if I would do another one just before we were going to shoot A Time to Kill, I was anxious to go back in again because I felt that if the audience was excited by what we had done in Batman Forever, that we were just getting started. And when I called Barbara Ling, who is our great production designer, and asked her if she would do another one, she said, "Oh, we haven't even scratched the surface." And that really, for me, was the motto of the movie. I think she really set the tone with that sentence, because I think that most of the people that came back to work on Batman and Robin, who had worked on Batman Forever, felt, well, if the audience loved that, well, we can give them more, or we can top it. And so I think one of the things that we were most successful in bringing to the franchise was color, a lot of energy, a lot of humor. You know, they are called comic books, and action. And so I felt we were just getting started, and it was wonderful to come back again. And it was also wonderful to have such an extraordinary cast.
And I remember walking in here, and they had this giant dinosaur that I'd come sliding down, and it's huge, this big Sinclair dinosaur thing, you know. And I remember looking at, and I walked in, and I said, you know, Jesus, Joel, I'm intimidated. And Joel's like, so am I. I'm intimidated. It's the biggest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it.
This super production was handled by the experienced director Joel Schumacher.
I think that Joel is extremely unique because he creates an atmosphere that does not make you feel like you're in a movie set. Although the look of it is like the biggest stage in the world, because it's the Batman stages and the sets were just enormous, and it looks like you know, Warner Brothers spent every penny on it that they ever had.
Okay, Marty, roll
Every dollar spent by Warner Brothers was used effectively by Schumacher.
Right. You grab a hockey stick and you knock out 6.
A job appreciated by everybody.
You take the stick and swing the guy. Right. And the guy hits the other guy.
Joel is there to be the guardian of making sure that what you're doing is appropriate and beneficial to the movie as a whole. So And he did that wonderfully. I had a great time with him that way.
A Joel Schumacher set is fun, period. Joel works the way I like to work, which is your work begins not when you start acting on the set, but when you arrive on the set. And the work is, your job is to keep things pleasant and fun. Or, you know, we're all getting a little too old to, you know, we are just kind of making believe here, so it's a little tough to take yourself too seriously, you know? And Joel's great at that. He's great at having fun, you know, which is what he does.
It's really hard work, and you got to keep the atmosphere light and keep people happy. And he keeps everyone involved, and there's, you know, the technical people on this crew is amazing, are amazing. We have the best of everything in every department. And he knows that, and he lets them do what they want to do and lets them do their job. You know, he's not trying to be the smartest person on the set. He's got a definite opinion about everything, which is good because you need someone to make decisions. But, you know, he lets these people do their job, which is what you need to do.
This is Coolio. You don't see this every day. You got it now. Action!
Another production achievement gave a new direction to the traditional tale, a new amazing story in which everybody had something to say.
But mostly this is a story about a family now. It's a story about, you know, the father and the uncle and the kids and the, you know, and how they all kind of survive this.
What a good title change it's been. Getting the kid up there in the title, I like that. Batman and Robin.
I thought it was very important for us to move forward with Batman's persona and have a less self-obsessed, less brooding, my parents are dead Batman. Because, you know, George Clooney is 35. And if we had a friend who was 35 and still brooding about all those things, we'd say, please get on with your life. And a man of George's age with, you know, young people in the house, Chris O'Donnell as Robin and Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl, and Alfred, who is now, you know, getting older, and in this particular episode of their lives needs a great deal of support and compassion from George, that he's a man and it was time for him to serve others and stop brooding about himself.
You once said to me that being part of a team means trusting your partner and that sometimes counting on someone else is the only way to win. You remember that? Well, you weren't just talking about being partners, you were talking about being a family. So I'm asking you now, friend, partner, brother, will you trust me now?
What Batman and Robin is about is family. What is a family and what is trust? We have to have those very simple, basic, human tenets to tell the story, or else we have nothing, you know. The costumes are fun, the action is fun, the jokes are fun, but none of it means anything unless the story is very solid. So we need a very solid base to put it on. And also, that's the way Batman comics are structured. There's always a serious element to the stories.
Strength and courage.
Partners?
Honor
Partners.
and loyalty. Freedom and justice.
Partners. Ya regresamos con el Batman Maratón.
Robin. My name is Freeze. Learn it well, for it's the chilling sound of your doom.
We could not have a hero story without the villains, and they are really special in this movie.
Batman has faced, you know, an enormous amount of villains, and he's been confronted continuously from one saga to the next with the most dangerous individuals that you can ever imagine. And of course, I come along now, and I'm one of them. I play Mr. Freeze. Now, of course, whenever I do a role, I always assume, and rightfully so, that mine will be the most dangerous and the most outrageous and the most outstanding and the most memorable character. And of course, Batman experiences that very quickly in the beginning of the movie, how threatening I am, really, how dangerous I am. And I am not kind of to be joking around with. and make the situation very chilling very quickly.
The nature of most Batman villains is that they're dual personalities. You know, they're originally somewhat well-intended, bent on eventually becoming mad good selves, and then their creation story of how they become their you know, hyper, you know, loving of evil, delectable villain self. And so Pamela Isley is the mad botanist who's slightly cracked and totally engrossed in her work, and she becomes Poison Ivy, who's a polar opposite. You know, Isley is rather completely, you know, somewhat insecure and nerdish and totally out to lunch, and Ivy is just the embodiment of confidence and self-possession.
With venom. I probably should have mentioned this. I'm poison. Poison Ivy.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, as Mr. Freeze, crashes in on the party, and he's very different than her. I mean, he's a sheer force and intelligence, but he's incredibly physically powerful, and he's this huge troop of men and freezing guns, and so she gets it in her head that this is the guy to team up with. This guy will make everything happen, and she comes up with a plan that involves him. So she goes and breaks into Arkham, posing as his sister, and liberates him. And she's very, very impressed by him.
I'm sure that as Mr. Freeze, there will be some great lines that people will repeat, and it's the most spectacular and well-written script that I've ever worked on. It just has really great writing in it, and so therefore I think people really will get off on all those speeches and this dramatic stuff and Shakespearean stuff that I'm throwing out there.
To be a Batman villain is like, in the movies, in a comic pop kind of way, it's sort of like an opera part. You know, it's limitless. Someone said to me, you can't be too big and you can't be too small. And I'm sure you can, but there is just, the opportunities are endless with the characters, and so it was just tempting. I've never done anything like it, and it doesn't come by very often.
There are so many new gadgets and so many new tricks, but a lot of that is determined by who the villains are, because Batman and Robin, and now Batgirl, have to deal with whatever the force of evil is. So in this case, we have a real dichotomy, because Mr. Freeze is, of course, living in a winter wonderland, and that gave us the opportunity to do extreme sports. So we have ice hockey, we have snowboarding, we have skyboarding, anything. We have frozen vehicles, we have ice vehicles, we have everything you can possibly do on ice or snow that we tried to incorporate. So they needed special tools and gadgets and vehicles to deal with ice and snow and with cold villains. Poison Ivy is a villainess who relies on seduction. She's in the opposite pole, because she's a hothouse, you know, seductive orchid, and she is symbiotic with plants and flowers. She's an eco-terrorist that believes that plants and flowers deserve the world, not human beings. So we have two diametrically opposed villains, not to each other, but to Batman and Robin and then Batgirl.
And talking about villains, do you remember when Riddler destroyed the Batcave? So where's Batman now?
I used the wonderful excuse of Jim Carrey, who was so brilliant as the Riddler, blowing up the Batcave and the Batmobile to have everything new. So we have a huge new Batcave with a his and his dressing rooms, because we now have Robin installed, and it has a much bigger bat screen. The new Batmobile, I think, is the most beautiful car machine I've ever seen in my life. It's only seats one, so if Batman has a date, she'll have to sit on his lap. And the Batcave is much larger. I think that we understood much more about the proportions and what we needed. The platform that it comes up, there's a lot of neon, use of neon this time. The gadgets are all new. There's tons of height. We know that those are very popular with everyone, including ourselves, because, you know, toys are fun.
In the new Santa's list, Batgirl and Robin are getting their toys.
He's got a new bike, He's got the new Red Bird, which is a pretty serious piece of equipment, which was kind of fun to drive it around. Joel was giving me a hard time. As you know, I crashed the Batmobile last year, and he was preparing the crew in case I crashed the Red Bird, but that did not happen. And just all sorts of Robin gadgets. You know, he's had time now. He's been in the cave for a while and talking with Alfred. And he's got all his little... That belt contains more things than you could ever imagine. It's amazing. It doesn't look very big, but they stuff things in there.
We also count with incredible designs for the costumes. Arnold could have the heaviest part, but the heroes with their rubber costumes are creating a controversy.
I think that there were a lot of very sophisticated costume designers and armor designers involved to create this kind of a costume, or armor, should we say, that they usually wear when they go out and fight the battles. And it is an armor that is truly like in the old days of the knights, an armor like that weighs, 60 or 70 pounds, and you carry this thing around all day. Don't you feel sorry for me already? Anyway, it is just, and it is shiny. It's beautiful chrome armor. And inside of the armor, it has a mechanism that keeps Mr. Freeze in deep freeze at a temperature that he can survive. And because any sunlight or any warmth will destroy Mr. Freeze, will make him immediately die. So he cannot live with the sunlight, he cannot live with warmth or anything like this. So inside this uniform, inside this armor, he gets always the supply of this cold air that makes him always full of energy and powerful and full of strength, as he always has.
I had no idea that putting nipples on the bat costume were going to be international headlines. The bodies for the suits are, the inspiration for them are Greek statues and art books that have perfect bodies. And so we're molding this perfect body in rubber, and they're anatomically erotic. And so it never occurred to me not to put nipples on the men's suits, because I didn't know that the male nipple was a controversial body part.
This is the hardest acting job I've ever had, which may not say much for me. It's hard because there are, when you're Batman, those are tricky. It's very tough to act in a full rubber suit and connect with the characters that you're talking to. That's a tricky thing because you can't hear, you can barely see. And there's like Batman can only get so excited, you never see Batman jumping up and down going, "Freeze is coming," There's only a certain amount of, there's a level of excitement, and you have to find that, and you have to, without losing the energy in the scene, you have to keep kind of a steady, forceful thing. So it's tricky, you can't just, you can't just kind of cut loose and do whatever you want.
Adventure for everyone.
Because the Batman audience is from 3 to 300. So, we've got to please the kids, their parents, the grandparents, maybe in some cases the great-grandparents, and the sisters and the cousins and the aunts, and the Batman cultists, and the hip hipsters, and the rock and roll people, and, and it's that's the fun of it. And that's my job. And as long as I feel that I'm succeeding in that job, then I would continue at the helm of the Batman movies.
I feel very confident in the movie. I think it's a really good movie, and I really trust Joel, and I really trust the gang at Warner Brothers. They're great. So now I have to sit back and just kind of let them do what they do well, because I did my job.
So let's wait a little while for the Batman and Robin premiere. The Warner Channel will bring much more. Trust us, you will have lots of fun with Batman and Robin.
De Bati Noticias. Ya se acerca el momento del gran estreno de la película más esperada de todo el año, Batman y Robin. Pero antes, tú, sí señor, tú te puedes ganar tu propio premier. ¿Qué te parece? Y puedes invitar a 100 amigos tuyos para que disfruten del evento contigo. Te estarás preguntando, ¿qué tengo que hacer ahora para concursar? Bueno, tienes que escribirnos al canal Warner y dinos qué es lo que más te gusta de Batman, la serie animada de WTV y por qué. Además, necesitamos algunos detallitos. No se te olvide poner tu nombre y también tu edad, dirección, número telefónico, ocupación. Mira, y muy importante, ¿cuál es la compañía de cable a la cual estás suscrito? Pones tu súper creativa respuesta con todos tus datos en un sobre y lo envías a Canal Warner.